Massive declines in the producer price index. Massive. I wonder why. I wonder if your old buddy Josh was onto something I told you what was going to happen. So here, producer price index declined 0.3% in May. And look, look at that. Let me let this guy in. Way off its high from, hold on a second, pause this. Come here. Way off its high of this, right? What? Right there. It's been, producer prices declined for the third time in 4 months. Falling 0.3%. As you can see from the nearby chart, the year-ago comparison for producer prices is now only up 1.1%. And it's been moderating since the March 2022 peak of what? The war in Ukraine. What caused the prices to go up the war in Ukraine? Want to take a guess? Right there. Prices were once again held down by the volatile energy sector, which fell 3.6% in May. Oh my goodness. What have I been telling you guys? Inflation isn't driven by the freaking Fed. Did I see Chicago Blackhawks? Yeah, Chicago Blackhawks. Inflation is driven by energy. I mean, it might have been driven by the Fed before. Now it's driven by energy. That's all there is to it. Massive declines in energy. Oh, what else fell? I want people to start screaming about deflation now. Check this. 13.8% decline in the cost of gasoline. There you go. Shocking. So here's your CPI. Talk about energy. Energy fell 3.6%. Here's our price of gasoline, fell 13.8%, and thus we have CPI only rising 0.1%, and we have PPI going down. All right, so that makes me, so check, I want to keep going. I want to show you something else here too. Check this out. The service sector led prices higher in May, rising 0.2%, while goods fell 1.6% in May. Huh. That we're going to show you something. After 4 of my book, the deflation is here. So we're going to go down here and we're going to show you something. So the table below, you'll see the growth in personal consumption expenditures. PCE has dropped every single decade. Well, not really dropped there, flattened, but still has dropped from basically 1950, 1960 to 2010. Every single decade, PCE, personal consumption expenditures. All right, so the growth of personal consumption expenditures in the 1960s was 4.4, 3.5, 3.3, 3.3, 2.4. All right, PCE, personal consumption expenditures is what drives economic growth, PCE. We all know this, man. About 70% of GDP is attributed to PCE, personal consumption expenditures. PCE can be driven in two different things, two different categories, goods and services. Goods, durable goods, non-durable goods. Durable goods are motor vehicles and parts, household equipment, recreational goods. Non-durable goods are food, clothing, gasoline, and other energy goods. They're non-durable. Durable goods are your fridge. You're looking at your fridge. Services, on the other hand, are health and housing utilities, health care, transportation, financial services, food services. So goods and services. All right, keep that in the back of your mind. Why has PCE growth scrolled down from 4.4 to 2.4? One reason is, quote, and this is from the BLS, the slower growth was accounted for by slower growth in disposable personal income, slower growth in PCE. PCE leads to higher GDP. I should say PCE goes to GDP. They go hand in hand. Slower PCE growth, slower GDP growth, and slower inflation. All right, let's keep going. The slower growth was accounted for by slower growth in disposable personal income and by an increase in personal savings rate. What? People are saving more? Oh my goodness. If someone should write a book on that the savings rate hasn't been dropping when you factor in Social Security FICA taxes. Oh, I did. I wrote that book. You can retire on Social Security. Even accounting for the slowing growth in disposable income, the reason PCE is slowing is because our spending is different now than what it was decades ago. Notice the chart from 1959 to 2009 below, all right? The expenditures, contributions to percent change annual growth rate. The expenditures, the change in share of expenditures on goods is down 22% from 1959. All right, look at that. Share of current dollar PCE, 22% decline for goods. Oh, a 22% increase in services. All right, what's happening here? What this means, we replace spending our money on things we need. Remember, goods and services. All right, so we spent money on things we need, durable goods. We got motor vehicles and parts, furnishing and household equipment. Food is a good. All right, we got goods. Food is a good. The things we want. Transportation services, recreation services, financial services, Housing and utilities. We want housing and utilities, but do we need the house that's this big I'm living in right now? The answer is no. So it changed, replaced spending on things we need for things we want. Quote, a large increase in the share of PCE accounted for by services, particularly for healthcare and financial services and insurance. See, Josh, healthcare has gone up a lot. Oh, my furry friend, how dare you doubt me? A large decrease in the share of PCE accounted for by goods, particularly by food and for clothing and footwear. So I had a guy in my comment section yesterday who goes, Josh, inflation, you ever priced a new vehicle yet, a new truck? I said, dude, look at TV. We can play these things all day long. He goes, oh, but a TV you don't need, but a new car you need. I'm like, oh, okay. So computers you don't need. I'm on a computer right now. You don't need air conditioning. All these things have gone down relative to income. It's just a factor. The idea, look, we're always going to have people like, oh my goodness, look at the prices that got up on a new truck. Do you actually need a new truck right now? No, you don't need a new truck. You can still drive an older truck. However, and we can sit there and say TVs, personal computers, phones, all this stuff has gone down. The cost of call long distance. The cost for your food has gone down relative to your income. That's why you have more disposable income, because it costs less to provide 3 hots and a cot. I just don't get it, man. People just want, because they don't like the occupant in the house. They hate Sniffy Joe, and they want to pin everything on Sniffy Joe. And I find that to be arrogant, frankly, because at the end of the day, your life is better now than it used to be. That's just a factor. No, it's not. It might not be specific for you. For me, it is, and for the vast majority of it is as well. We have easier access to information, communication, entertainment, everything you possibly want. No one's skinny. No one's down to freaking lack of food anymore in the United States. We're all overweight. We're all over-medicated. And we're all overly stimulated with entertainment. All right, let's keep going. Now, you might look at the table above and say, but Josh, look how much healthcare has increased. Healthcare has increased by right here. Healthcare by 11.6% now becomes... So it used to be, in 1960, it was 3.9% of total PCE. Now it's 11.6. So healthcare has gone up by quadrupling. Quadrupling. This is true. But the average consumer didn't pay for all this. Quote, a significant decrease in the share of PCE accounted for by out-of-pocket expenditures. Hey, you. In 1959, 72.7% of PCE for healthcare was paid for by out-of-pocket expenditures. You paid for yourself. By 2009, the share had declined to 17.6%. During this period, the share of PCE for healthcare went from 3.4% to 45.4%. The most important changes in government funding of PCE, personal consumption expenditures, resulted from Medicare and Medicaid. So, 72% of healthcare spending was paid for you out of pocket in 1959. 17.6% of total healthcare spending is paid for you out of pocket in 2009. And yet the share of PCE, personal consumption expenditures, went from 3.9% to 45.4% in terms of paid by the government. The government is basically paying half the bill. Even Jonathan Clements, who I frequently criticize, wrote this in his Money Guide 2016 book. Over the past 50 years, we've seen 2 key changes in the way America spends. First, we're devoting less of our income to life's basics. Clothing, footwear, food, and beverages account for just 11% of total spending, which is down from 27.4% in 1959. Secondly, spending on healthcare, financial services, and insurance has soared. For instance, healthcare rose from 5.9% of total spending to 19% in 2009. Much of this cost wasn't paid directly by the consumer, though. It was paid by private insurance and the government. Now, that's not to say your health insurance hasn't increased. Of course it had. However, very, very few people had health insurance back in the day, which I prove in other chapters of my book, which I'll share with you. But that's the beauty of insurance. We all pay a fee on a regular basis to pay much less of a fee if a catastrophe happens. That's insurance. You pay a little bit now, routinely, so you don't get swamped regularly later on if catastrophe happens. The next table shows that in 1959, Americans imported 2.6% of goods. By 2009, that number grew to 16.5%. We imported 600% more goods than, over the last 50 years. Completely different for services, though. Americans increased imports of services by only 8%. So remember what I was talking at the beginning of this video? I showed the difference between goods and services. That's what's causing deflation. So here, goods. Look at this. Our imports of goods went from 3.8% to 16.5% in 2009. It's much higher now. which is a 14% share increase. Not percent increase, a 600% increase, a 14% share. It's almost like the share of with the guys who watches TV, like the share who watch the NHL finals, for instance. It's not a percent increase, it's the share. All right, look at that. 14% of our goods is imported. Isn't that crazy? And yet look at our services. Only 0.1% increase. Isn't that nuts? It went from 1.2 to 1.3. 0.1%. So while imports of goods have exploded, our spending on them as a percentage of total expenditures has dropped. So we increased our import of goods by 600%, but our spending on goods has decreased by 22%. Crazy. People don't get this. How can this happen? It's pretty simple. We've imported cheap foreign labor has driven the price of goods down using cheap foreign labor. For goods, price changes for categories in which the imports are finished goods have been an increasing share of consumer purchases over time. The price changes for goods have been particularly low, in fact, deflationary. The categories of clothing and footwear and recreational and vehicles exemplify this phenomenon. It's not easy to import services, though. You have to pay people an American wage for the services they provide. The cost of service is taking more and more of our budgets. So, like right now, you want to get a guy to put this freaking beautiful back deck on, you have to pay an American wage. Now, you can import Guatemalan laborers to produce on there and all that stuff. We can argue all day about this or not. It's freaking bad. We shouldn't do that, but we are. And we're all benefiting from cheap foreign laborers, except the people in the roofing business. That sucks, dude. There's no other way around it. However, that's what's happening. There's nothing you can do about it, so just live along. I hired these two guys, two guys from North Georgia, white guys, and the GC, the general contractor, my man Jim, who actually lives in Hawaii now, but great guy. They did all this. And they charge an American wage. I paid an American wage for American labor. Now, the guys who are going to do my landscaping here are all migrants, and they don't pay an American wage. They pay lower than American wage because they're pricing Americans out. That's just a fact. However, you can't price doctors out. I mean, we're importing Haitian doctors, Haitian nurses. We're importing Indian doctors, all that. So we are pricing some of those people out, but they're still getting paid a decent wage. They're still getting paid a decent wage for that kind of labor. You know what I'm saying? So we can't really import the services for your surgery, for your financial services. For most skilled labor, you're still going to pay an American wage for that. That's good. That is good, what I'm saying. But for goods, we're getting goods shipped to us from overseas. Even freaking things like we're getting pineapples shipped from, not Guatemala, it's like Venezuela or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Those are being chopped off the pineapple tree from a guy in Venezuela making 50 cents an hour. We're not paying American labor down, I don't know where pineapples grow in the United States, Macon, Georgia, I don't know. We're not paying that guy to do that here. All right, so we're importing this goods. The price of goods has flatlined, if not gone down. The price of services has gone up. And we just see that again. Watch. The service sector led prices higher in May, rising 0.2%, while goods prices fell 1.6%. And this is the deflation. This is why it's here. And what's going to happen is you're going to devote more and more of your cost to services, insurance, things of this nature, skilled labor. You're going to devote less and less of your cost to goods because the prices of goods have been dropping dramatically since the 50s. Dude, you can't argue this. I mean, you can argue, but that'd be silly. Don't argue. Does that mean there's a massive deflation or inflation? It depends on what you're trying to look at. And then this guy will say about the new car, like I was talking about the trucks. Oh my goodness, I'm just sitting there mind-boggling. What does a truck have that used to not have? Backup windows, all kinds of backup rear view thing right there. They have the light on the back. They have automatic windows. They got all kinds of electronics in there. It's just the amount of regulation, the higher increase in the gas mileage. All this stuff goes to the price of cost of the vehicles. That's not attributed to freaking inflation because the federal's printing. It's not silly. Check this out. So I post on my local channel from Reuters. Shipping tax could yield a $100 billion climate windfall. The shipping industry emits 2.9% of the world's greenhouse gases. It has also largely escaped taxation. So the UN, our great enemies at the UN, want to tax shipping, which is going to do what to prices. That's nothing to do with the Federal Reserve, man. It has to do with regulation and the cost of energy. All right, check this. Natural gas production in the Permian Basin sets a new record in 2022. Remember, before we had no natural gas, we're all running. And not only is natural gas booming, so is an oil. So now we no longer have peak oil. supply, we have peak oil demand. Peak oil demand, because they've been talking about peak oil. Look, I actually think oil is actually it's a renewable asset. Now, I've come to the conclusion I do not think oil is a fossil fuel. I think it's all made up, make believe stuff. I think that the earth generates its own resupply of oil, like we generate our own blood and things of that nature. I really do believe that. I think we've all been sold a bill of goods on basically everything we've been told. That's why we never run out of oil. But they've been wanting to say we're running out of oil. That's why they used to say peak oil, peak oil, peak oil. We got to change because we're running out of oil. We got to change. That's what they used to say. And then we said, we're never really running out of oil. It's not happening. So now they gave us a climate change silliness. Because we got to change because we're going to blow up the world. Well, I thought we were running out of oil anyway. No. But now we're going to blow up the world with massive amounts of GHG, greenhouse gases. Such a scam. Such a scam. Now, that regulation will hurt prices. Having a tax hurts prices. That's regulation. Nothing to do with the Federal Reserve. So we have these two competing entities, dude. Services, goods, importing, export. When I say importing trade, importing goods versus buying homemade. We have these kind of things right now. The issue is more and more we're going to be paying higher prices for imports if they do increase shipping costs and things of that nature. But what's that going to do is going to bring the demand up for more localized stuff. And what happens, dude? What happens when that demand goes up? There will be a supply to meet it. And what happens to supply? The supply will keep growing as the demand levels off, and that will reduce prices. All good. We're in a deflationary economy. All there is to it. If you can't see it, I don't know what to tell you now. I get it. The price of eggs is higher than it used to be. 100%. Dude, I don't know why people don't get this. How many eggs did you buy growing up? We had eggs. We didn't buy any eggs. See, we had chickens, when I was a real little kid. When we don't have chickens anymore, they cost more money. That's true. My income has expanded well above the income my parents had in which to buy a dozen eggs, and yours has too. Not to say that is to be silly. The net worth of the United States is through the roof. Stop with this freaking naysaying. Just wake up and say, something, Lord? I live in an abundant society. I'm grateful for what you provide for me. It's insane. We'll see. Love you. We're going live on Locals tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk about standard deviations, do some right capital stuff. So, love to have you there. Locals. Just look at my, in the doobie-doo, you'll see the link to the Locals channel. And if you want to support me on Locals, $5 a month gets you in the door, baby. I don't think you have to support me to watch the live stream. I don't think you can comment there. But if you want to support me on Locals, $5 a month in the door. You have access. You can post stuff. I love it. It's a great place to be. We'll see you.